Okay, kids, it's time for another episode of the Fueled by Weird podcast, the only podcast that welcomes carb crusaders, filling fanatics, and sandwich aficionados of all kinds. I'm Chris Daly, and today I'd like to welcome writer Anthony Iannaccio to the show to talk about his book, Superguy. Anthony, how's it going, man?
Hey, Chris, thanks for having me.
No problem, man. I did it right, right? I didn't mess it
Yeah.
up? Okay,
No, that
cool.
was fine. Yeah, that was
We were
perfect.
just talking before the show that I was probably going to mess it up, and I was like, ah, dang it, I think I'm going to mess it up again. Cool. Well, how's it going, man? How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. It's Monday, so this is the best part of the day, obviously.
It's true.
Um, yeah, I had to do extra work today. I had a meeting like past 5, one of those kind of days. So I'd much rather be doing this.
Those are rough days, man. Like,
Yeah.
and of course, for people who are familiar with Parks and Rec, who would know my background,
Oh, yes.
but
Oh my God.
also people know that because like Ron Swanson, I'm a
Yeah.
fan of dark-haired women and breakfast food, so that's a little bit something about me. But today's the day, March 31st, the day that April thought didn't exist, so she pushed all his meetings to March
Yes.
31st. So today just seems to be meeting day, and a bunch of my meetings got canceled at the day job, so I was pretty excited about that.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, holy shit. I do remember that Parks and Rec moment.
yeah. It's a special day. All right, man. So, for those who are already familiar with the show, I like to start things off with an icebreaker question, especially with people I get to meet for the first time, like yourself. So, today's icebreaker question, if you could name a band, what would it be called?
If I can name a band. Oh,
If
okay.
you were going to start your own band, you had to come up with the name. You get the rights to name the band. What name would you pick?
I don't know if everyone's gonna think this is cool enough, but um, can I explain it, or you just want?
Sure. No, go for it.
Okay, so have you ever seen Walk Hard? Dewey Cox.
I have not seen that one.
Okay, so it's like it's a spoof of like Walk the Line or Ray.
Mhm.
Like Dewey Cox is a fictional musical artist who had like a
Yeah.
long history. He's a legend. And throughout the movie, he's like there's these scenes where like he starts off he's doing weed and then he's doing cocaine and then it's like escalating whatever drugs he's doing. And at one point, Tim Meadows, I don't know if you know Tim Meadows, the
Mhm.
comedian,
Yeah.
uh, hilarious in the movie. And there's a line that he has, and he's like, uh, "We're doing uppers and downers, Dewey. It's the logical next step." And I always thought that was such a funny line. But whenever I would play Rock Band, I don't know if you ever played that game.
Yeah.
I would call my band the logical next step.
That's awesome. That's a great band name. I have to remember that. The reason I say that is because my friend and I, uh, we have a Facebook chat where anytime we come up with something we think would be a good band name, we just message each other, just this weird random stuff all the time. So we have this big group chat, or not a group chat, it's just the two of us, but we have this big chat where we just talk about different things that would be good band names. So I have to bust out my phone, and I never do this during an interview, so
I
I
want to hear some.
apologize. But
No, hell yeah, I want to hear some.
there's some good ones in here. Let's see. A nerd themed bluegrass. So shout out to Ryan Atwood, first of all, good buddy of mine. Um, the most recent one we talked about was a nerd themed bluegrass band called the Foggy Nelson Breakdown.
I
Um,
love it.
the most recent couple that I mentioned was Bootleg Ginger Beer. That's from I was at a training for the day job once, and our trainer was talking about how this environment he made up for the testing, he called bootleg ginger beer because he's a ginger who was working on trying to make his own craft brew, and so he just thought that'd be a cool band name. Like that is a cool band name.
Wait,
Uh,
are you in IT? Because you're talking like things that I have to do with training environments and stuff
I
like
I
that.
am in IT. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
The other one was Ghost Door. It was
Ooh.
referenced to an automated door that opened on its own at the mall. So it's supposed to be an automatic door where you push the button and it opens, but we just walked up to it and just popped open on its own. There's no sensor or anything. It's one that you have to push the button and nobody pushed it, but it's still open anyway. So it's kind of
Ghost
crazy.
story. Nice. I love that.
Um, Chocolate covered ash can. I thought was kind of appropriate for a comic one. Um, Dinosaurs in Paris, which
Ooh.
actually is an actual band that I found out about recently. So that kind of sounds awesome.
Dinosaurs in Paris. I like that one too.
Yeah, there's some good ones. So yeah, it's kind of fun. We just it was something that he started with a friend of ours that passed away who just liked to message out random band names all the time. It was like his favorite, one of his favorite games to do. And when he passed away, we just decided to keep the tradition on going on between the two of us. So it's kind of a fun game and it gives us a chance to talk to each other every once in a while.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
I used to do that with some friends of mine too. It's fun.
it is fun for sure. All right, man. So, with the kind of the theme fueled by weird, it's kind of just the things that you're into, the hobbies, interests, all that stuff that make up, who you are as a person. So, we're gonna take a trip to find out exactly what kind of stuff that you do. What's some of your hobbies, your interests?
So for sure, I love reading comic books.
As we can see by your
As you
awesome
can see
collection.
behind me, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, for
yeah, I
sure.
dabble, I dabble.
Yeah, a little bit.
um, let's see. Besides comic books, I'm not a huge gamer, but I still play video games.
Yeah.
Um, but like I'll play like weird video games. Like there's one called Power Wash Simulator.
Oh my God, dude.
I love that game.
So I don't mean to cut you off, but
No, no.
so I've had one of the OG Xbox ones for like 10 years, and it
Nice.
got to the point where I there was a lot of the newer stuff I couldn't play. And it was a perfectly good condition because I never make time to play games ever because when I sit down to play a game, I guilt myself out of it because there's like 100 other things I could be doing.
Yeah.
So I would just guilt myself out of playing games. But for Christmas this year, my wife got me one of the Xbox One Series X's. So now
Ooh.
there's a whole ton of stuff that's opened up that I can play. So I've kind of made it like a resolution, and she encourages me all the time, go play a game and get out of my hair, leave me alone, all that stuff. Um, but that was one of the first ones I found was Power Wash Simulator, and Jesus Christ, I played that game for hours,
Yes, it
hours, and
devours your
it's
time. Yeah.
it's weird how like it scratches that weird itch in my brain about just like perfectionism with cleaning, 'cause you're just cleaning and swiping back and
Yes.
forth. And I don't get what it is. And I could say in like the last 10 years, I've stayed up till 1 a.m. playing video games twice. And that's happened in the last like 3 months. And one of the two times was with Power Wash Simulator. I was like,
Oh,
holy
hell
shit, I
yeah.
need to go to bed. That game is crazy addicting, and I don't know why.
No, it's that I totally agree with everything you just said because like it scratches that itch and you'll be like, oh, let me just clean, like let me just power wash one more couch, and then by that point you're
Yep.
cleaning the entire house and you're
Yep.
like, all right, next level, and like 5 hours have passed. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
love it. That's why I love it.
Oh, dude, it's so good. Like, and I found there's a bunch of extra DLC that's free.
Oh
So,
yeah,
like, hell yeah, let's just scoop that up too.
yep.
So,
And a sequel's dropping soon, so
I saw that, dude. I'm kind of a cheap ass, and I got it with Game Pass for Xbox, and I really want to go and snag some of the paid DLC, like especially the SpongeBob one, just
oh yeah,
just because it's SpongeBob.
that's
But
a
yeah,
fun one.
you
That's
play
a
that
fun
one?
one. Oh, I played. I like I said, like this is pretty much the only game. Like I have a PS5, and this is like the only game I play. You know what I'm saying? Like I
Oh
just
my God, dude, it's so good.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's real good.
I'm a big fan of the weird games too. Like I just got done playing one called The Gunk, which
The gunk.
yeah, it's you get stranded on this island or this not island, this planet, and you have to go around and you have to like you have this robot arm where you have to scan all this different stuff that's on the planet, like ants, plants, animals, stuff like just all the different stuff that goes on. And there's something that's going on that's producing all of this gunk is really the best way to describe it. And you find out you can use your robot hand to suck up the gunk, and then once you suck up the gunk, like there's a lot of spots where the wildlife is just dead. But once you suck up the gunk, this thing happens where it like opens up and it brings all of the wildlife that's dead back to life. So the gunk is killing the wildlife, and it has not the entire game, but when you're sucking up all this gunk, it's very, very similar to like a reverse power wash simulator. And I think that's where I got stuck and kind of obsessed. It's kind of a short game. It's only like 4 to 6 hours to play it all the way through from start to finish.
Mm,
Um, but it's a lot of puzzle stuff, just trying to figure out how to get from A to B. You have to get rid of the gunk so you can advance on and kind of just free this planet from whatever's causing the gunk. But it's yeah, it's pretty rad too. But I'm super into like the weird indie games like
yeah.
that.
No,
But
I'm gonna add that to my wish list. That you sold me on
it's
that game already.
it's pretty fun. Like it's not like a fantastic, amazing game, but
No.
it's pretty fun. It
Yeah.
is a good
It,
worth the time for sure.
there, but and anyway, I'm not the kind of person either that like a game or a book or a comic or a movie, needs to be perfect. I
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
like imperfect things too.
for sure. So what other things do you like to do?
I mean, besides comics, I read a lot of like novels and stuff like that.
Huh?
I just like to read, and I don't know. Like I watch I don't watch as many movies and TV as I used to. I had a daughter 9 months ago, almost 10 months ago now.
Very nice.
So like we try not to do a lot of screen time, and I just don't want to like throw something on in the background and like it's chill at first, and then like some guys getting like mutilated, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
you can't watch this.
I get it.
So like sometimes I'll put on wrestling though, and I feel like that's like good enough. Like she doesn't know what's going on, but not that like I'm a huge wrestling fan, but I've been tuning into Raw every now and then. And I actually used to work for WWE for a little bit. I
Oh,
was on the
dude,
writing team.
we
Yeah.
were we were gonna get into that for sure because
Oh, okay, okay.
I'm a big wrestling fan. Matter of
Oh,
fact,
okay.
I've got my wrestling shirt on today. Whoop,
Oh, nice. It
where'd we
disappeared, but
go?
was that
Where'd I
Cody?
go?
Okay.
Here we go. Okay,
Oh, Dusty,
we got
nice.
Dusty. I've got a wrestling shirt on probably almost every day.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, so first of all, welcome to the Girl Dad Club. I know it's a little bit late, but I've got two daughters myself, and
Oh, nice.
being a member of the Girl Dad Club's a pretty great place to be.
Yeah.
Enjoy it while they're little,
Yeah.
because mine are 17, almost 18, and 9, almost 10, and it gets a lot more interesting when they get older. It's not, it's 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 a special kind of interesting right now, but when they get older, it's a whole different kind of interesting when the hormones kick in and all that stuff, dude. It's wild.
Yeah.
So yeah, speaking of, so I also got my daughters kind of indoctrinated when they were little into wrestling. My older one didn't like it as much, but she's kind of rolling back into it now. She has a few of her favorites, because I watch way too much wrestling, way too much wrestling. But the older one, she has a few of her favorites that she watches. My youngest one has just started getting into liking wrestling a little bit. Um, but when she was little, we used to put the hat on her, and she would kind of put her arms out like the OG Bray Wyatt would. Uh, it was pretty rad. Pretty
That's
rad.
awesome.
So yeah, tell me about your time at WWE. I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, no, it was interesting. I mean, I wasn't there too long, almost a year. Um, I got to travel on the road, which was pretty fun, so I got
That's
to see
cool.
places in America, I probably never would have gone. Um, I got to meet a bunch of the wrestlers, obviously, some were cooler than others. I know a lot of people always want to know, like, was this guy cool? Was this guy a dick? Um,
Oh, I'm
I
sure.
don't. I'm sure because you watch a lot of wrestling, like you'd consider yourself a mark, like so, like do you ever like look up like backstage politics and stuff like
All
that? And yeah,
I'm
right.
dude all the time.
So I
All the
was always
time.
that kind of
Huge
wrestling
mark.
fan too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
like and even to this day, like if I see an article about something, I want to know what's going on. But what I found out working there is no one knows what they're talking about if they're not working there. And even if you're working there, you still really don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
You know what I
I'm
mean?
sure. Yeah, yeah.
So some things were more eye opening than others. Vince McMahon is as weird, and you hear as crazy things as that has come out. Like like obviously now everyone knows like he's a freak, but
Right.
like when I was there, like I only met him a couple times. But like they would tell me like if you're ever in a meeting with him, you can't sneeze. Like someone has been fired for like sneezing in front of the
I've
guy.
I've
Like
heard of that stuff.
right, like that's a true thing apparently. So like there was always those kind of weird things. Like part of the job was a dream job for sure, and then other parts were just like this place is freaky. Like I don't know if I
Yeah.
could be here. Now obviously I only stood there less than a year, but um I mean, it was a great experience. I would not never take it back. I would never say I regret being there.
Yeah.
Um, I think you just need to my wife also worked there like right before I worked there.
That's cool.
Um, and yeah, it's so cool. And we just weren't able to work there at the same time. Like she was leaving as I got hired, and it was just like, oh man. But like, she was on the road a lot, and then, I had to be on the road a lot. And it's hard to have like an outside life.
Yeah.
You kind of have to give your life to the company no matter what part of it you're on.
Sure.
um and that just wasn't I wasn't ready to do that. So like I think it's a dream job for like anyone who's a wrestling fan for sure, but like you need to commit to it, probably be single, probably just all your free time and all your regular time is devoted to that. Um, and I wasn't really watching wrestling too much before I got hired. Like I kind of got into it again the previous year, but
Yeah.
so I was, a product of the Attitude Era. Um,
Yep.
that's what I grew up watching, like
Me
started
too.
in like 98, 99. But
That's
that,
kind of about
right.
when I did it. Was right when right before Stone Cold won the title from Shawn Michaels.
Yeah, that era.
Yeah, yeah,
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly.
Mhm.
So, prime time of wrestling.
Yep.
And I kind of dropped out in like, let's say 2008 or so. Like
Okay.
that was as long as I could hold on to. I felt like it was getting
Sure.
really bad after that.
Yeah.
And I think, after Ruthless Aggression, it started to go downhill in a lot of ways. Obviously there were
Sure.
cool moments, but
Yeah.
I couldn't tune in anymore. But then lately, I started, and also after I left, I was kind of, there's a little bit of bitterness, like, and I'm just like, I don't care about wrestling anymore. So I
Sure.
tuned out really hardcore. And when I left, Roman Reigns, like, he was still like trying to be the top guy, but like everyone was booing him. And like, what brought me back in was like, I saw everyone liking Roman suddenly, and then I was like, this is bullshit. How is everyone like, what happened? And then I
Yeah.
saw how it happened, and I was like, holy shit, this is actually like wrestling. They did something really cool with the Bloodline saga and
Yeah.
all that stuff. And it brought me back into it. And I was like, okay, like I can't hate this. And I feel like, a lot of people were sucked in by that too, that weren't wrestling fans or just,
I
you know,
agree. Yeah. So when your wife worked there, was she a writer as well, or did she do something else?
She was on the production team actually. So
Oh, nice.
yeah, she got to do a lot more hands-on stuff with like
Okay.
backstage segments and interviews and stuff like that. And
Awesome.
really, yeah, she got to really like meet the wrestlers and have a working relationship with them. Where I was sometimes even told like don't talk to them unless they talk to you, like that kind of thing.
Wow.
Yeah. But not everyone, and
Sure.
you can't really stop that. Like if someone talks to you, obviously you want to have a conversation with them, but
Yeah.
some people want to give you the time of day, like who the fuck are you? Like, you know,
Yeah. I get it. So when you
yeah.
were there, did you contribute to any like were there any like major storylines that made it TV that you were part of?
Uh I mean, I was more of the writer's assistant most of the
Oh,
time,
okay.
so like I didn't really get to do anything that cool. Like one time I got to write a promo for Becky, which was pretty cool. Like
That is
before
cool.
she became like the man Becky, like way
Yeah,
before
yeah.
that. But it never aired, but like they filmed it, which was pretty cool. Um but I never really got to get my hands dirty, but like I got to be in a few backstage segments. So like in that era, I
Nice.
was like on Raw, on SmackDown. And I'll send you the clip later because I've shared it a
Okay.
bunch of times. But there's
Yeah.
a Charlotte Flair backstage segment. She's walking with Dana Brooke. And I'm just like pretending to read a script or something, and she like intimidates me, and I'm like, the papers come out of my hands, and I'm just like,
That's awesome, man.
but I could like
Very
really
cool.
sell those kind of things. So they're like, oh shit, put Anthony in some more of those things. It looks funny. So
That's awesome,
you
man.
could catch me in some of them. But then like my wife would have like speaking lines in some of these things, and like the funny thing with her is that she didn't grow up watching wrestling. She was not a mark until like she started working there, and I like
Yeah.
started to like you know give her all the highlights from what I liked as a kid. So like she was like working with Kane one on one,
Oh
but
man.
right, but like maskless Kane, and like just like
Yeah.
now I don't want to say I'm a big fan of Glenn Jacobs anymore, but like back
I
then,
get that.
you know
I
what I
get
mean.
it. Yeah,
So
yeah.
like back then he was way cooler. And then a bunch of wrestlers like Seth Rollins was on the come up. Like she was at the WrestleMania where he cashed in.
No way.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
man.
yeah. She was
Best
there for some of
WrestleMania
them.
ever.
Yeah, yeah. And I always tell her this. She's like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yes, trust me. You were at the best." I was at the one the year after, which was bleh, it wasn't a
Yeah.
good one. But like her last day there, and she doesn't even really tell this story, and I'm like, why? I would tell this story every day if I was you.
Yeah.
Her last day there, Stone Cold does his podcast.
Yeah.
She's got to work with him before, but on her last day there, she's working with him, and she's like, "Oh, it's my last day." He's like, "Oh, really?" He gets one of his beers and pours some for him and pours some for her, and they like, do a cheers on her. She's like, she got to have a beer with Stone Cold Steve Austin. I
What?
like, yeah, exactly. Like
I would
that's a
tell
bucket list, like
dude, seriously.
unbelievable stuff. I never got to do anything that cool. She got to
Yeah.
ride in Vince's private jet.
Oh shit.
Just a bunch of cool stuff. Yeah, yeah,
Wow. Yeah,
yeah.
I would tell that story every day. Are you kidding? I would
Right,
just walk up
yeah.
to people I don't even know, be like, "Hey, guess what?" That's so rad.
Right,
Very cool, man.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Hey, what can I say? I got a cool wife, you know.
That's just cool all the way around,
Yeah,
man. That's very cool.
yeah.
Now, I also saw that you tried your hand at stand-up comedy. I want to talk a little bit about how
Oh
that came to
yeah.
be.
Okay. So back in like 2011, actually, so I co-host a podcast with my two good friends, Jake and Cody. And
Hmm.
we met. Cody actually still does stand up. Jake is more of like improv and acting, and he does that out in LA. But I never really pursued it that way. I was always more of the writer type, you
Yeah,
know. And we all met in this comedy program in New York City. Jake used to live in New York City. Cody's from West Virginia. But they were all, you know, we all became friends there in that program. And part of the program was you did stand up, you did an acting class, you did an improv class, and you did a sketch comedy class. And for me, like I found my passion with sketch comedy. Like that was 100% my thing. But in the process, you know, I kind of learned how to act. I did some improv, and I found out I was better at those things than I realized. But it's not something I ever pursued. Stand up, I tried, but I knew it just wasn't my thing. Like I think I
sure,
could write a joke better than I could perform it. Um, and it was a fun experience, but like my last show I bombed so hard, like, and that's gonna happen if you're a comedian, but it was
sure.
such like a bomb, like I was just like it was nuclear basically, you know, like
Oh, dang.
I was done with comedy after that.
Oh, wow.
So I only did maybe like 10 shows, and I was like, yeah, I guess, you know. Now it feels like there's a theme here. I'm just like, yeah, I worked at WWE, I quit that, I was done with that, I wasn't good enough. Stand up kind of felt the same way. um but yeah, like it was fun, but like I've always wanted to try to go back on stage again, but I don't know. Like I said, like writing is really what's for me. I'd much rather write a script or write a story, or
Sure.
in this case write a comic.
Yeah.
You know, like I just it's not, I don't know. I'm just not really a performer, let's say.
Well, it's cool that you at least tried it, because now you won't have that what if, like, what if I try to do
Yeah.
this? Because you actually did it. And, whether or not you consider yourself good at it or not, the fact that you still gave it a try is commendable. So that's really cool because
Thanks, man.
a lot of people want to do it, but they never even try to do it. But you at
Yeah.
least tried and did it. So
Yeah.
whether or not you were good is debatable, but the fact that you at least did it is pretty awesome.
Yeah. You're right. Thanks, man.
Absolutely. So, speaking of your podcast, because that was something I wanted to bring up too, well, why don't we talk a little bit about comics and Chronic?
Yeah, sure. So, like I said, so I co-hosted with Jake and Cody. We met in the comedy scene back in 2011, 2012. And then in 2021, Jake, you know, hit us up, and it was a bit into the pandemic, I guess. We still were at home. Um, and he's like, let's do a podcast. Like, what else are we doing?
Right on.
And he came to us with the idea, comics and chronic. You know, we would smoke or eat an edible or do something like that, and talk about comics or a comic book movie, or a show. Uh, and you know, we just got some mics. We it's all remote. You know, it's still remote to this day
Yeah,
because Jake's in LA, Cody's in West Virginia, I'm in New York, and we pretty much meet once or twice a week. And at this point, we're like 10 or so episodes away from episode 300. So we've been
that's
doing this a
awesome, man.
long time. Yeah.
That's cool.
And it's fun, you know, it really was a way for us to keep in touch. And then after we did some episodes, we're like, let's try to talk to like comic book people. Let's just like, you know, um, and we started reaching out to people, and it was, you know, something that we started to like. It's not something like you know, we're not like always doing interviews, and sometimes we'll go a long time without doing one.
Yeah,
But lately, you know, I try to get like other indie comic people trying to promote their Kickstarters or something like that.
yeah,
And those are really fun conversations, you know, because we're like all like at the same level, or just like it's more of like, I don't know, like there could definitely be people we've had on that, you know, you're in awe of because you've read their stuff, or
yeah,
you know, um, but like that's why I like talking to indie people. You know, I think it's just more on the level. You get like the conversation we're having. Like it's kind of hard to get that deep with like professionals and stuff. Not for any reason
yeah,
except they're always there to like promote their book, which is fine. But just because comics and chronic to me and to Jake and Cody, it's like we're just trying to have fun, and like, you know, I everyone has their own ways of doing a podcast, and like for us, we just want to, you know, joke around and talk about the same things other comic book podcasts talk about, but like, you know, sometimes we get serious, but like really we're just trying to like, you know, be funny and have fun and like poke fun at the things that don't make sense in comics, but we're still huge fans, and you know, obviously
yeah.
like to read and have respect for what we're doing. But yeah, we just, I like, even with the Superguy, like I'm just comedy is what I feel comfortable writing. Like I'll start to write something serious and then like a joke slips in and I'm like, oh, that's where we're going with this one. Like that, you know. And
That's
and I
awesome.
feel like there's just not enough good comedy comics out there. I don't know if there's a lot of comedy comic book specific podcasts, that's for sure. Um, and I think like, you know, again, like what going back to like stand up comedy, like we're bringing that, you know, it's not like we did that and like we lost it. It was like it's something we this is what it's kind of culminated in some ways.
Yeah.
So like we have like state all of us have stage experience and like professional experience and things like that. And I feel like, you know, it sounds silly on the surface, comics and chronic, and it totally is. I'm not trying to, you know, say it's anything other than that, but you know, I think we're just bringing stuff to it that might be not seem apparent at first.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, you've got the skills, and just because you were going to school to learn how to do things one way doesn't mean you can't take the skills you learned and apply it in a different way. And that's seems to be what you guys are doing. Because I just subscribed to your podcast recently because I didn't know you had a podcast until, we talked about it on Facebook. And yeah, you guys seem like you have a great time, and it's really awesome.
Yeah, because we have like a real rapport. Like I'm saying, we're
Yeah,
friends for like over a decade at this point, and like again, it is we do like talk about making it more improv in the sense like, you know, Jake said a joke. It's not, you know, I shouldn't shut him down. Like let's try to like build off of there, but be
yeah,
like, you know, real about it instead of like not like we're playing a game, but like that's just kind of our rapport, I guess.
yeah, for sure. And yeah, I totally get what you mean about, with the comic book professionals trying to have a conversation, not be completely in awe, because I like to talk about this whenever I can. But I got to talk to Kevin Smith on this show once, and it was
What?
it was incredible, dude. Like, he had pushed it off a bunch of times because I didn't know at the time, but he was in the middle of filming the 4:30 movie, so he had to push me
Oh,
off a whole bunch. Then finally, when I was only going to get like 20 minutes, maybe a half an hour, because he was wanted to, Dark Horse had contacted us about wanting to promote the Quick Stops graphic novel, and Masquerade, his other book that he was doing. Um, but one day when I thought he was going to push me off again, he just popped into the Zoom call,
oh
and
shit.
he's like, I feel really bad for pushing you off. We'll talk as long as you want to talk. I'm just at my mom's house hanging out in Florida. And he did the whole call like on his cell phone. So he just walked around and he's like, "Hey, mom cooking." And I'm like, "Hey, mom." And man, it was hard because he's been a big role model of mine for like not my entire life, but at least my entire adult life. And so it was hard to, not have that like I just want to like be in awe of this man because like this is
Yeah.
like a thing that's never going to happen. But it's easier to have those kind of conversations with the indie folks because they're like you said, they're a lot easier to talk to. You don't have to, you can still be in awe of them but still have a really good conversation with them.
Yeah, no. And dude, I am jealous that you had Kevin Smith on, dude. He's like our white whale. It's like comics
It
and chronic. Kevin Smith should come on our show, you know what I'm saying?
Dude, it was incredibly difficult, and I
Oh,
think
I'm
I
sure.
found out afterwards. I forgot to set my mic up, so
Oh
the
no.
audio on my side's not super great. You can still hear me, but it's not
Uh-huh.
super great. And we forgot to ask if we could use the video to release it on the internet. So if you go to try to find it, there's only audio. I mean, I've got the video on my
Uh,
PC, so I always have that. I was talking to Kevin Smith, um,
hey, you
but
got to
yeah,
do it.
it
That's awesome.
it was cool. It was very hard to do, but it was cool to get. So,
Props, man.
but yeah, thanks, man. Um, so speaking of writing, we're going to go back in the way back machine now, and want to talk about what it was that got you interested in writing in the first place.
Ooh. I don't know. I always kind of like I remember even as a little kid, I just like to make up stories and stuff. And like I would play with my action figures, you know, I was kind of spoiled. So I always had a lot of toys. And I would just, that's how I would spend a lot of my time, like playing with my, you know, I would have like a bucket that would have like biker mice from Mars and street sharks and like
Yep.
Power Rangers. Like it was, so I was just making up crazy, you know, I wouldn't call it a multiverse, but you know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
just a kid playing around. And I guess by the time I got to like write something, let's say like first grade, you know, like you might write a story with the help of a teacher or something, but I just remember really liking it. Like I still have some of the books that I wrote like in elementary school and middle
That's cool.
school. Like I wrote one called The Day It Rained Animals, like in second grade. But like if
Nice.
you look at the art, it's like written and illustrated by me. But there's like animal heads falling from the sky. Like I
Nice.
interpret it that way in my little kid brain. So there's like blood in it, and I'm just like reading it back. I'm like, what the hell is going on? But like I was really into aliens as a little kid too. So like I was scared of them. Like I always thought like a UFO was gonna like come and abduct me or something. But
Yeah.
like I kind of translated that into like a love for sci-fi, I guess.
Sure.
You know, so a lot of my stories have sci-fi, have aliens, or have some futuristic thing in it. Um, like I don't know. It's something that I never have to force myself to do. It's not something that I have difficulty doing. Like I just like writing. I've always kind of liked it. So, and you know, like I've written short stories. I've written a movie script, spec scripts for like TV shows, like Always Sunny, comic book scripts, comedy sketches, poems. You know, everything. I don't like to write all of that, but um, like I was saying before, like with stand up comedy, I don't feel like it's a strength, but in certain forms of writing, I feel like I have more strength than others, I guess. Like I hate writing poetry. Like I don't understand it. It makes my
I
brain hurt,
gotcha. Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
for sure. And that's cool. I've still been trying to get my head around the script writing because I've done prose writing for a really long time.
Mhm.
Not recently, but I used to. I don't know what it was that got me out of prose writing. I should get back to it, but I've always tried to wrap my head around the idea of script writing, and they always tell me it's if you go from prose to scripting, it's way easier. But I think I'm just overthinking it because it's super complicated, and I just haven't been able to figure it out. But that's cool, like stuff like that. Oh, it's always sunny. I just actually finished that for the first time recently.
Nice.
That's a heck of a show, man.
I love it. It's my favorite show of all time.
It's so good.
Yeah.
And I watched the crossover with Abbott Elementary.
Yes, that was great too.
So I'm so excited for the other side of it.
Yeah, right.
Oh my God, it's gonna be so good.
Probably just Dennis being a huge creep.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I'm real excited to see the Abbott guys in the Sunnyverse in Patty's Pub to see how it kind of works out from them.
Yeah, especially the janitor. He's great, and he like vibes with him so well.
If they don't have more of him and Frank together, I'm gonna be
Yes,
super, super upset.
that could be all the episode is about, and I'd be happy.
I agree. I agree. All right, man. So, what was it that got you interested in comic books initially?
um, I guess kind of it's got to be because like I would watch like Batman the animated series, X-Men growing up. Again, like I almost called it the Attitude Era, but like those '90s animated, you know, comic book shows.
It was
That's what I grew up with.
it was such a great time. You and I must be very, very similar in age because yes, everything you're talking about growing up is exactly the same stuff I did.
Yeah, and it's just so good. And you know, like I was
Yeah,
always in front of the TV for better or worse. And I
yep,
was, you know, that I was that kind of kid.
me too.
And so like I didn't start reading comics until high school, although like I had comics
Wow.
here and there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And not until like I was like end of high school, like graduating. So and that's like 2008, let's say. So if you want to do some math.
You graduated in 2008?
Yeah.
Oof. I'm way older than you.
But we're on the same wavelength, you know, like it seems
Sure.
like
Yeah,
we like the
yeah,
same things.
yeah. Yeah.
But comics specifically, like I just had friends, like I would call 2008, I always call it the Civil War era of comics. Like Marvel was
Sure.
doing Civil War, DC had Infinite Crisis, just a lot of really like fun event stuff and things that hooked me. You know, like, you know, maybe at this point, like Civil War isn't the best comic ever, but it did get me to read more comics just with the hook
Yeah.
of heroes fighting heroes, whether or not, you know, it succeeded in that. But you know, I still kind of like it. I would reread that any day. Uh, but like nothing specific. There wasn't like there was a Spider-Man comic I had by J. Michael Straczynski, like and that's from like 2001 esque.
Yeah.
Um, and that like I've always liked Spider-Man, especially the cartoon. But like that was the run that made me like, oh, I want to read this stuff. Like I want to see how it got to this point. I want to see what happens
Yeah.
after it. Um, and then it kind of just what you see behind me. That's what it became at some point. It just
Nice.
started, you know, getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Like you know, it's like, well, why is this character saying this here? I got to go back and read this, and like, but then I have to read like a lot of people complain about how comics could be that way. Like there's tie-ins and stuff like that, but I don't know. I wasn't like chronically online back in like 2008 and 2009. So like I was just like reading order. That's what I have to read, and that's what I'm looking for in Barnes and
Yep.
Noble, and that's what it was. And uh, you know, I still buy comics every week. I've kind of cut back on buying single issues. But I just love them. There's always good comics to be found. Like people could say, come on and say like, comics nowadays, blah blah blah. But there's always something good from everybody. So I don't think
Absolutely.
we've ever been like starving for good comics.
Yeah. And I think it's cool that, Spider-Man seems to be a entryway character into comics for a lot of people. I know
Yeah,
he was for you, he was for me, along with Green Lantern and Doctor Strange. Those were kind of like
nice.
those were my three that kind of got me into comics. And yeah, I love seeing your posts every week about the comics you get because it's just there's a lot of cool ones I've never even heard of that
Yeah.
I try to go dig into. It's really cool.
Yeah, that's why I like when other people do it too, because that's how I find out about,
Yeah.
like, oh, what is that book? Now I got to look into it because I haven't heard of it.
Hmm.
I'm kind of like, I don't want to say I'm like the master collector. Like, I don't have everything, but,
Yeah.
you know, some things I just want to have a lot of, certain characters. Like Green Lantern, I love. Jeff
Yeah.
Johns' run is what got me into that
Yeah.
character.
Big time.
Yep. Nice.
Yeah, yeah. And I agree with you about Civil War. It's really hard to say exactly what specifically about it is really good, but that whole storyline was amazing and it was very well done. I
Yeah.
don't know if I agree so much about the second Civil War,
Oh, no.
um,
Yeah.
but that first one was special for sure.
Yeah. The second Civil War, all I'll give it is that the art looks really nice.
Yep, it sure
Really
does.
nice.
It sure
But
does.
I I don't want to remember that story.
And yeah, I'm a lot like you too, a lot with the reading order. If I go to start something, I can't just start in the middle. I have to know how we got to that point. So,
Yep.
and it's not even really with just with reading, it's with like everything. Like if I find like a new podcast like, Comics and Chronic, I can't just drop in the middle or even at the latest one. I have to go as far back as I can go just to
Uh-huh.
kind of see where it starts and go from there. I don't know why. It's just how I am when I start new things. I just have to go to the beginning. I have to like dig in and really find out about it.
No, I'm the same exact way. Like with Comics and Chronic, like I don't like to recommend that simply because like I know we've gotten better over the years and the
Sure.
quality, even the audio quality, it gets better and better, but like it's not chronological, but I think yeah, I guess it's cool to see like a podcast journey, like how they
Yeah.
started and hopefully you stick around to episode 300, but like you're like 3 episodes in, you're like fuck this.
I mean, I did that, speaking of West Virginia, my favorite podcasters are from there. They
Oh,
don't all
nice.
live they don't all live there anymore, but they're from there and their earlier stuff is pretty rough. But
Yeah.
it's kind of fun to see exactly, from where they started to where they are now. And they're kind of like with you where they're three brothers who moved away from each other and they wanted to find a way to stay in touch once a week. So, like with you and your friends, they find a way to get together on the phone once a week and make a podcast, which is their way of staying in touch, which is a really cool idea.
Nice. What's the name of that podcast?
My brother, and me.
Oh, nice.
It's
Okay.
it's so good. And they have a few spin-off shows. They do a live play D&D podcast with their dad called The
Ooh,
Adventure Zone. That's super hilarious.
nice.
Each of the brothers is married and they each with their wives have their own separate podcasts. It's like a whole big podcast family and it's
Nice.
it's it's the McElroy brothers. They're so funny. They're so very good.
I gotta ask Cody about if he knows those guys.
I know they're from Huntington.
Oh yeah, Cody's always over there.
Nice.
He's in Logan, or he's from Logan. I don't know how
Nice.
far that is from Huntington.
Yeah, the oldest brother, Justin, he still lives in Huntington, but the other two, one just moved to DC and the other one lives in Ohio, I think. I don't remember. But yeah, the McElroy brothers.
Nice. I gotta
My
check them
brother and
out.
me. So good.
Nice.
Very good. All right, man. So, we've talked quite a bit about it already, but now it's time to dig into the meat and potatoes. It's time to talk about Super Guy. So,
Hell
for
yeah.
for those out there in podcast land who have never heard of Superguy, let's talk about it. What Superguy is about.
Sure. So Superguy is a very lazy superhero. He's competent, like he totally can do the job. He just doesn't want to. He'd rather sit at home and not do it or get someone else to do it. Very basically you could call him a lazy Superman. Uh but uh so what I have right now on Kickstarter is the very first issue. But it starts off as a one shot. So this one shot, the way the character came about, so it's Super Guy and Robot Guy. That's his sidekick. Um, And Superguy and Robot Guy first appear in the one shot I wrote for an anthology called Unknown Heroes. Also, let me point out Joey Murphy, the artist.
Yes.
He's a co-creator of this comic. He writes it. He writes it. I'm sorry. He pencils it. He inks it. He panels it. He colored it. He did the cover. He did the lettering. Like it's just me and him. I wrote it, and he took care of the rest. And like his art, I think, is what really brings this character to life. And I've just liked his art. You could check out his Instagram at Jorion, Jorion. And he's been like his art has like a style of like Calvin and Hobbes almost, which I really like. It's
Yeah.
like it's very distinct. And when I had the opportunity to do this anthology, I knew I wanted to do something with him, and I knew I had to do something to match that art style. Um, and 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 naturally, like I'm talking about this whole time, like I'm into comedy. I have a background in comedy, so whatever I was going to do was going to be a superhero comedy. So the 10-page one shot, which by the way, anyone watching or listening, they could get a copy for free. I think I've already sent it to you, but if you want to message me on any social media, I'll send it your way. And anyone backing the Kickstarter, no matter if you're a physical or digital backer, gets that. There's even a QR code in the comic that'll bring you right to the one shot. And the reason I'm stressing this one shot is because I think it informs a lot of the story in the first one. Although I've written the first one in case you don't read any of that, and not to overcomplicate things, but I just think everyone should check out the one shot before the full issue. It might just fill in some gaps. But that 10-page story precedes this new 28-page story. And in this 28-page story, we're continuing the story of the one shot. In the one shot, Robot Guy is introduced. He starts off as a villain that's taking over the planet, but he's quickly struck by a bolt of lightning. He gets reprogrammed into Superguy's sidekick. He takes care of the invaders for Superguy. And then they go back to Superguy's apartment, and Robot Guy is destined to be a sidekick forever. He does Superguy's laundry. He does the things that Superguy doesn't want to do. And in this story, we're expanding on that. So there's a meteor that's about to hit Earth, and Robot Guy, it's up to him to stop it because Superguy just doesn't care. And the story goes from there. I don't want to spoil too much, but in this first issue, Robot Guy is going to confront the idea of what it means to be a hero and what it means to be a sidekick, and how he falls under that, how Superguy falls under that. And I don't know. It's a 28-page story, and we've definitely set it up so that the story continues. We have at least 4 issues in mind to complete like at least one volume of first arc. So we tease some things at the end of the first issue to get people more excited. And yeah, I think what we're trying to bring with Superguy is that it's a comedy, right? I just don't think there's a lot of necessarily good quality comedic comic books out there. I know there are some, but I don't know. I'm a harsh critic when it comes to comedy. Not even like for comics, I'll read any single comic you put in front of me,
Yeah.
like, and I'm not really that harsh of a critic. Like, I tend to like more than I'm being a hater. But with comedy, man, like it's just such a visceral reaction. So if it doesn't make me laugh, I just kind of ignore it.
Sure.
So I think I just haven't seen enough of it, or like if it exists out there, publishers are kind of ignoring the good stuff or just ignoring the genre in general. So I made sure that like there's something funny on every page, maybe not every panel, but like it's a comedy first and foremost, but then there's also a lot of action to balance that out because it's a superhero comic. So at the end of the day, it's an action comedy about a lazy Superman and his robot sidekick who no longer wants to be a sidekick. And the story develops from there.
It's a very good story. You know, I was lucky enough, and
Thanks.
thank you, by the way, to read both of them. And I agree with you. I think, you know, you wrote issue one well enough where it fills in most of the blanks, but I think to make it really clear, definitely should read the one shot first for sure. But yeah,
I'm glad you liked it. I'm glad you read it.
it's very good. It's it's super funny. I really
Thanks.
really liked it a lot. And just the fact that, you know, he is a lazy superhero. He doesn't want to do the work, but he'll take all the credit for it. Like
Yep.
That's an interesting superhero you don't see a lot of, and I think that's really cool that you were able to bring it.
Thanks. Like, I guess that's another thing too. Like, I am a fan of comics. I'm a fan of a lot of different kinds of comics, and it
Yeah.
really felt like a story that hadn't been told yet. Like, I'm not saying I struck gold or anything, but I really haven't seen. Like, yes, like it's gotten a lot of comparisons to those that have read it. Like, they'll say, "Oh, this reminds me of the Tick," which, yeah, I could totally
Okay.
see
Yeah. Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Although it's not necessarily an influence because I've never read or watched it. But I see that, and I totally get that. But like the Tick is from like the 90s. Why have we not had a similar superhero in all those years? You know what I'm saying? So
Right?
like, like we have like Homelander and we have Omni-Man and people like that, but that's not who Superguy is.
He's like the
You know,
exact opposite.
yeah, exactly. Like he's not like, yes, the fight gets a little intense with him and Robot Guy, but like
Yeah.
again, when I try to balance the comedy with action, then I try to balance the action with comedy. Like I try
Yeah.
not to make it ever get too serious, but then I think like to tell a good story, you need some drama in there. Like it could
Absolutely.
be funny, but you still need some drama. You still
Yeah.
need, like Super Guy is not who you're rooting for in the story. Like Robot Guy is who you should be rooting for. He's the
Yeah.
underdog. He's not a piece of crap. Like he's the real hero for all intents and purposes. But Super Guy again, he just wants to take the spotlight. So he even takes the spotlight of the comic. You're buying the Super Guy comic, not the Robot Guy comic.
Exactly.
And that's how I see it.
No, that works. So, what what am I trying to say? How did you come up with the idea for Superguy?
So like I said, it was part of an anthology. So I kind of just I kind of had an idea of just very basic, lazy superhero gets a sidekick who he makes do all the work, but it's a robot sidekick. And from there, that was the basic idea. But when I spoke to Joey, the artist, that's why I say he's the co-creator, because then he designed Super Guy and Robot Guy, which gives them so much more life than that one sentence I just told you.
Yeah.
But in our chatting, like he's like, so who is Super Guy? And for me, Super Guy, there's like shades of, and these are references, you might get or might not get, but like Futurama,
Okay.
there's a character, Zach Brannigan.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's some of him in there for
I
sure,
could see that for sure.
right? And then, but not as like creepy, like, and just not as dark, I guess. But like,
Yeah.
not that Brannigan is too dark, but like, he could push it. But like,
If
Super
if
Guy's not.
you if you strip all the perviness off of Zap Brannigan, that you
Yes,
pretty much got okay. Yeah, I got it.
like you could say a lot of bad things about Super Guy the character, but he's not a perv. Like he's just
Okay. Yeah, yeah,
that's one of the things he's not.
yeah.
Um and Ratchet and Clank the video game, I don't know if you've
Yeah. Okay.
ever played that.
I haven't, but
There
I'm aware of it.
So in Ratchet and Clank there's a character called Captain Quark. And he
Okay.
kind of is like another kind of Zap Brannigan, but it's a kid's game, right? So like Captain Quark is everyone sees him as the hero. He's famous throughout the galaxy and things like that, but he sucks. Like he can't get the job done. He's a
Yeah.
coward. And I feel like that influences a lot. And to that extent, for Robot Guy, Clank from Ratchet and Clank, there's a little bit of his DNA in there. But then like there's a little bit of Dalek in Robot Guy, from
Okay.
Doctor Who. There's
Yeah.
and again, some of this is Joey's influence too in his art style and how he designed the characters. Um, and I try not to make them exclusively any of the characters I just mentioned, but just kind of inspired by.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, but like I said, like he's not an Omni Man, that's for sure. Like yes, and like I want to consider Super Guy evil. He's just like the antagonist of the story. Like like I said, we're rooting for Robot Guy in this first issue. He's someone that started off as a villain in the one shot, but now he's someone that's trying to change his ways. Where Super Guy is not the kind of person who's trying to change or be a better person
Yeah.
or even do the bare minimum. He wants all the attention, he wants all the glory. He's not going to do anything to get that, but he's going to try his very best not to have to do anything to receive it, I guess.
Yeah. He's not evil. He's just kind of a dick.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I
That's a
get
good
it.
tagline too, by the
Yeah.
way. He's not evil. He's just kind of a dick.
Yes. Full quote. Check. Nice. That's cool, man. So, you guys are on Kickstarter right now, and we'll get the link shared out in the notes. We'll get it shared out on social media just so everyone knows who doesn't already know. And you guys are killing it right now.
Thank you.
Uh,
Yeah, I do want to be clear. Yeah, it's funded already. It got funded
yeah.
in 4 hours.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, I remember when you were announcing it, like, you had to push it back a couple of times, but the whole time you're
Yeah.
asking, I'm like, hell yeah, let's go. This book looks amazing.
Thank you.
So yeah,
That's what I like. That's what I want to stress. Like, I really think we put a lot of great work into this, especially
yeah,
Joey. Like, yes, it's funded, but I want people to read this. If honestly, like, of course, I had to do the Kickstarter and to pay for this and things like that. But like,
yeah,
if I could give this book to everybody for free, that would be amazing because I just want people to read it and not just oh, Superguy. Like, I love the support. I love the support, but I definitely want people to read the comic. Because
yeah,
I think it's a good story. I think it's fun, and I think we're giving people something um, that publishers really don't have out there. Not and that's why I say like yes, we funded already, but you might like what I'm talking about, and like it's there for you to buy. This is how I'm getting Superguy in everybody's hands. There's a lot of great variants that we have, a lot of extras. Like there's a lot of free extras too, by the way, because I blew past my initial goal. So I want to give people something extra on top of that.
sure.
So and it's going strong. We have 20 days left as of this recording. So more stuff will be added if I keep blowing past it. It's slowed down a little bit, which and I even feel kind of silly just being like asking for more because it's fully funded and then some and then some. And I'm not saying that to brag. I'm just saying like I could see it. It's a very public number. Like everyone, and there's tons of people that can't fund or are still having trouble, reaching their goal, and they've been doing this way longer. Like, of course, support who you can and who deserves it. But like, I just want as many people to get Super Guy as possible because every dollar further is going to help us make issue 2 and 3 and so on and so forth.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's hard, because not every book is for everybody, and that's
No,
that's
definitely not.
okay. But in as much as you want to try to back and support every backer, you're just not able to, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
But as long as you help get the word out and help spread the word about indie comics and the help, it takes a village to raise a
Oh yeah.
comic book, and you need to get all the help you can, and it's it's a good environment to be a part of because there's a lot of really cool people out there. So it's good to
Yeah.
help get the word out, even if it's a book that's not for you. Um,
Hmm.
it's still nice to help get the word out however you can.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I'll fully admit that Super Guy may not be for you.
Yeah.
But it's definitely if you like 90s, like and this is just from other people how they felt about it, but how I kind of want people to feel about it. Like if you like 90s animated television, like the kind of cartoon that maybe you were watching when you were 10 years old, but when you were watching it, like you were like, what, I might get in trouble if my mom and dad walk in here, but like it's on Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network or something, but it still
Yeah.
has that tinge of adult
Yep.
but it's not like rated R or anything. And not even as far as like a Ren and Stimpy, which got away with crazy stuff. Like,
Yeah.
but you know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
tried to keep the vibe of like that 90s animated because that's what I love. At the end
Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
day, I made a comic that was gonna make me laugh and that I want to read and that I felt was missing. Whether I hit the mark, is up to everybody else. I can't say that, but that's what I'm trying to give everyone.
And that's the kind of the best piece of advice I've ever heard is, if you're looking for something in the world and it doesn't exist, that means it's time for you to make it. And it sounds like that's
Bingo.
exactly what you did, which is fantastic. No matter, if one person reads it or 500 people read it, there's gonna be somebody else out there that wants it just as bad as you do. It's a matter of trying to find them. So
Yep.
that's really cool that you did that.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Absolutely. All right, man. So, the Kickstarter ends on April 20th. Make sure you don't sleep on this book because it's a great one. So go check it out. Make sure you help spread the word to anybody who likes superheroes, anybody who likes funny stuff, anybody who likes comic books. So help get the word out and let everybody know.
Hell yeah.
Sir, after this Kickstarter wraps up and is over, what's coming up next from you that you can talk about?
I mean, I don't have anything like secret or anything like that. Like, this is my first comic. That's another thing. Like, this is very, like, I did the one shot, yes, but that's part of an
Yeah.
anthology. Like, this is my first full length comic, me putting it out there, my first Kickstarter. Um, Now I know like a second issue is not only possible but people want it. So that's already in motion. A second script is actually already written. So it's just a
Nice.
matter of finalizing that, and Joey's working on that
Very
even have
cool.
some of a third script. Like I wanted to come in here and also the comic is finished. I just have to send it to the printer. It's been finished for at least a month. Everything's good to go. So like super guy, I'm on full super guy mode. I'm always looking for anthologies, more anthologies to do. I've only done one so far.
Yeah,
Although it's my first comic, I have been writing for years. Like it's not really my first rodeo at all. I think I
yeah,
still bring those skills to anything I write. So I'm definitely always looking for more opportunities to write. Um, but Super Guy is like I said, it's just my main focus right now. I might be working on a horror comic with one of the variant cover artists. Actually, not might. We have already talked about it. There's just nothing solidified yet. So that's in the works.
very cool.
All I would say is Super Guide issue 2. Hopefully by the end of the year, maybe something's out there or at least in
Nice.
motion. Um, but making indie comics is not easy, and I'm only
Yeah,
just learning a lot of stuff. um Grateful for the success I'm getting right now, but I just need to learn. I would love to get, you know maybe we pitch it to a publisher, maybe they help us make some more issues. Maybe someone out there really likes us. uh but this is just a new journey for me, so whatever pops up.
that's awesome, man. And that's gonna be one heck of a trade. I'm super stoked for the super guy trade.
Thanks, man.
It's gonna be rad. It'll happen one day. It's I know it's a ways out, but
It
it'll
will,
happen.
it will.
It's gonna be rad.
I'll say in the next 4 years for sure, a possibility.
Heck yeah, man. That's rad. All right. Well, before I let you go, one last thing. I'd like to ask everyone that comes on the show to share a bit of advice about being a creative. So, what's some advice you'd share with the listening audience?
um don't don't care what anyone thinks about what you're doing. Like with Super Guy, the one shot, this first issue, I'm someone that likes to share my writing with friends and people that I respect their opinion, but
Yeah.
someone over here might like A and hate B, someone over here might like B and hate A, and then you don't know what to fix or change in the story. You just have to go with your gut. And you if you don't have a good gut, get a good gut. Like that's going to be your best creative friend. Like you got to trust the creative decisions you're going to make. um and just make them. Not like you said before, not everyone's going to like everything, and you have to accept that. You
Yeah.
just I didn't write Super Guy with the intention to make everyone laugh or make everyone happy. I picked someone that I know and trust their sense of humor, which is my own. It's as
Yeah.
simple as that, because that's like that's what every writer or creative person has themselves. Like you just got to kind of be in touch with what you think is good. You have to have taste. Like it's an important
Sure.
thing. You really need taste.
Yeah.
So if you don't think you have taste, try to develop it. Like I've been watching comedies since I was a little kid. My grandfather would show me the Marx Brothers and the Three Stooges and Airplane and like Mel Brooks stuff. Like like I've seen it
Yeah.
all, and like it impacted me. Like, and yeah, I don't know. Am I just rambling? I like that.
No,
That's
you're
just the
good.
way I see creative stuff.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's really good advice. All
Yeah.
right. So, let's also give you a chance to plug yourself. Where can people find you? Where can people stay up to date with stuff that's coming from you? All that good stuff.
Yeah, sure. So I'm at Mr. Tony Nacho everywhere. Blue Sky, especially Instagram, Threads, Twitter, TikTok. I have a link tree everywhere that will give you all of those links, plus links to some of my writing, links to a link to the Super Guy one shot. I don't have a website or anything. Maybe I should. But like I said, this is all new to me. Just if
Yeah.
people actually want to see more of my stuff, that's news to me. So I got to work on like getting it out there to them. But Mr. Tony Nacho everywhere. I'll happily answer any DMs. I'm here to talk to anybody in the comic book world. I don't know what, advice I could give, but I'm here for that. I'm happy to check out anybody's work. I have a podcast, Comics and Chronic. Um, I try to get, like I said, I try to get indie people on there. I'm trying to promote comics just as much as trying to make them, because I think community is important in anything, but the comic book
Absolutely.
community, like you said, has great people in it, and that's a fact. I've met some great people in it. Um, and I'm just trying to keep it alive, because it seems like and everything nowadays is just like in danger of like getting worse, the enshittification of everything. So
Yep.
like if I can make comics a little better by like connecting people or helping you fund a Kickstarter or just get more eyes on your stuff, I'm happy to do it just as much as write my own comic. Like rising tide, I think you said that before too. Like that's it.
Takes a village
Exactly.
for sure. All right. Well, For me, I like to start off by thanking the band Polygon Horizon. Their song Pizza Force is the song we use for the show. Go check them out on Bandcamp. It's a wicked awesome song. I can't get enough of that song. It's so good. Check out Fueled by Weird on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, kind of on Blue Sky. I'm just on Blue Sky under my own name because Blue Sky is an awesome place. And actually, I'm pretty sure if it wasn't for Blue Sky, I don't know if you and I had ever would have met. So I'm very thankful for
Wow,
Blue Sky. It's a great site.
I love it.
Um, you can also check me, or you can also send me an email at feelbyweird@gmail.com. Hit me up. You want to be on the show? You want to talk about all sorts of stuff? Hit me up there. You can find Fueled by Weird on YouTube, Spotify, and anywhere you get your podcasts. And Fueled by Weird, the Nerdy Man Room show with Hassel and Monster, Hassel's Review, and Big Rob's House of Entertainment and No Chinese Food make up the Stay Weird Network. It's a brand new podcast network. I haven't done this in a while. Dedicated to bringing some awesome back to the internet because that's what the internet needs right now is a little bit more awesome because there's a lot of really crappy stuff on there right now. Check us out at Stay Weird Media on YouTube and send us an email at stayweirdmedia@gmail.com. It's actually Stay Weird Net. Check us out at Stay Weird Network on YouTube and check us and email us at stayweirdnetwork@gmail.com. Jesus Christ. I'm gonna get through this, I promise. Um, I also want to thank the Zone Collectibles in Tifton, Georgia. They're the sponsor for the show. They're your one-stop shop for comics, collectibles, and so much more. And if you like the show, please leave a review and tell your friends because word of mouth is my friend. And remember, kids, life's too short to be normal, so stay weird. Anthony, thanks so much for joining me tonight, man.
Thanks for having me on. This was a great time.
Absolutely.